Creating scatter plots. A scatter plot is a graph used to relate two different numerical measures. So it has to be something that we can measure or count. Scatter plots have a horizontal axis and a vertical axis, and they must be drawn with a ruler. The scale must start at 0 and increase in even increments, or we could say in equal increments. So if you let one square on your graph paper represent, say, 5, it has to represent 5 all the way up, and it goes up in increasing order. The data is represented by points on the graph, and the points are not joined. This is not a dot to dot. We use scatter plots to show a general pattern or trend in the data. So people will prepare these and they will give them to people in business or in government or industry, and they use these scatter plots then to look at the data and to make decisions based on that data. On your scatter plot, you will have a vertical axis and a horizontal axis. You have to remember to label your axes. One of the variables we consider causing the other one to change. So the one that we consider to be the cause, it is called the independent variable, and it goes down here. We'll say this is the cause, and this is the effect. And that's just your decision, your guess on what you think is causing something else to change. So this is the cause down here. This is the effect over here. We call this one on the horizontal independent variable, and the one that's on the vertical axis the dependent variable. Now let's do an example. Last year, when Canada's Wonderland was open, there was a heat wave, and there was bottles of water that were sold, and we have a table here that represents the temperature and the number of bottles sold. So what we have to do is decide which one of these is the cause. So I think the temperature is the cause. So I'm going to label my horizontal axis temperature and my vertical axis number of bottles sold. Then I have to put on my scale. So I look at my temperature, and the temperature ranges from 23 degrees to, I think the highest temperature there is 37 degrees. Now, we also have to remember that we have to start at 0. So this spot right here has to be a 0. Now, what I'm going to do, because I don't have any temperatures between 0 and I think 23, I'm going to use a little lightning bolt symbol, and it's going to just look like this, and that allows me to jump. So I don't have to go evenly from 0 up to 23. I can jump. And then what I'm going to do is go up by 2s. So my first spot that I have labeled is this line right here, and that's 22. Now I could have made this next line 23, but it would have been a very crowded scale on my graph. So to keep it pretty, I'm just going to label every other ticky here with a number, and I'm going up by 2s. So in this case, every square is equal to 1 degree. For my number of bottles sold, I range from 32 up to a highest number of 376. So I can't leave out anything. It wouldn't make sense because I have a really small number of 32 and a really big number of 376. So I'm going to have to show everything from 0 up to 376. So what I'm going to do is start at 0, and I'm going to go up. Every square is going to represent 20. So I'm going to have count up 5 squares will be 100, and then another 5 squares will be 200, 300, and 400. And this is just to save me time. Now you could put all of the numbers on there if you wanted to. So I could start down here at 20 and 40 and then put those into the right place. So 40 would be right there, 20 would be right there, and so on. But what I'm going to do is just count. Now you can stop the graph or stop the video right now and make this graph, and you can put all of these values on your vertical axis. Now what we're going to do is plot the points. So my first point is 23 and 32. So I have to go over to 23, and then we have to estimate where we think 32 is. So it's going to be kind of halfway between 20 and 40, so I'm going to put a dot right there. And then I'm just going to check that I've done that one. Then we do 25 and 50. So I go over to 25 and up to 50, and I have to estimate. I'm going to say that 50 is right there. Then we do 28 and 112. So 28, 112, this would be 120, so 112 is about partway up that square. And then you continue plotting these points. Here's my completed scatter plot. And I don't have to connect my dots. I just leave them here. And so the people that are looking at this to make decisions will say, oh, look at that. As the temperature goes higher, the number of bottles of water sold gets higher, which we would expect to happen, right? Make sure that you label your axes. That's very important, and that you have equal increments for your scale.